Are you ahead of the game? Keep up with the latest news and commentary on markets, regulation, and more. 2 wikis, video content, 7 newsletters, and blogs right at your fingertips. JohnLothianNews.com.
Do you foresee a problem with the fact that volumes are dropping in tandem with the regulatory overhaul?
Indeed, the comment made earlier in SEFCON 3 that volumes are arguably down 1/3 through most of the various ways of judging it is probably true. I can probably confirm that myself as well, and that's a lot. That's without the proper implementation of various elements of dodd-frank through the CFTC. So if they are indeed also stifling, as they might be, of liquidity, we are looking at a really big retrenchment in volumes around the world, or particularly in the United States. And as you get that lower liquidity, that filters into less competitive pricing for end users. And if there was any one premise that you could turn to for why there was ever an inclusion of execution modes in dodd-frank, it was that the end user should be better serviced and get better pricing, more competitive pricing.
Will this lead to consolidation among IDBs?
I don't particularly see an escalation of that yet. I think IDBs tend to be optimistic by nature and fleet of foot. I would say that, being optimistic, that we will indeed find some solutions that will allow us to proceed back to levels of profitability and volumes that we like to see. This is an unprecedented time, though, and it's a transformative time. So you need to be a bit visionary.
What about smaller firms or firms that only focus on one asset class?
That's a good point, and I think that your suggestion there is probably the most likely way that it will go. I do not believe. I share the view that these smaller boutique would-be CEFs or smaller brokers now that want to become CEFs will not want to go through the compliance burden, the administrative burden, the personnel burden, the IT burden. I mean, there's a lot of costs extra that are coming around the corner that brokers have never seen.
What is the focus of the CFTC Technology Advisory Committee with which you are involved?
What comes out of it for me, what's fascinating for me, is that, again, for public policy purposes, what we've got on the one hand is we've got a thoughtful CFTC commissioner taking the reins here, alongside, by the way, the SEC, of course, doing the same sort of thing, and investigating this area which requires that, especially after the flash crash, especially after night trading, all the sort of various times that the HFT world comes and rears its maybe arguably ugly head. And in the same breath, we have the biggest thrust in Dodd-Frank on the execution side is pushing towards electronic media. That's a strange inconsistency, it seems to me, and I think it's going to catch us out somewhere. Something's got to give there. We can't be worried and investigating HFT, which is such an important ingredient of electronic media, and at the same time pushing what was a voice-buffered world, if you like.
What have you learned from the SEFCONs?
What has happened in the energy markets is that the 2 big DCMs, ICE and CME, have orchestrated a total destruction of swaps in favor of futures in the energy world. And they've done that largely, I think, by wooing the major energy counterparties, who are different from all the other products in the world, practically, and only in energy, because those same energy counterparties may well get captured by the swap dealer designation, which they desperately don't want to do. This is not a problem in the other products because the banks will definitely be swap dealers and they're ready for it and they're very big and bold and can handle it. But a power company or a gas company in the US does not want to have that designation, does not want to be captured by Dodd-Frank. So they have been easily won over by these gentlemen at ICE and CME to transform their business into being futures.
Is the futurization of swaps the final solution, or are there other considerations as well?
There's a reason why swaps have been so prevalent the last 35 years, and that is because in an unfettered marketplace, they have overwhelmed futures by a large measure. They are flexible instruments that ultimately the end user would choose. So it's only when we have the unintended consequences of dodd-frank and extra cost burdens that are kind of spurious to the process that anyone would start reconsidering whether they do swaps versus futures. And that's what's happening right now. So in an artificial sense, the market is being guided towards futures again, which may affect the end user because their choice of hedging vehicles is minimized, is diminished again.